Okay, awesome. So again, welcome and thanks for coming out this Saturday afternoon. We're recording this info session so that folks can see it afterwards and you can share it. The idea really is that the folks who are on this call get so excited about joining county committee and you just want to share it with all your friends and your neighbors. And you'll share out the information that you learn here and you'll have that resource of the video to share it as well. So this presentation is being hosted by CODA in partnership with Assemblymember Harvey Epstein, and let's get into it. So today's agenda is we're gonna go over exactly what is county committee, kind of break down the structure, what's its function, and how it all works. We'll talk about how it plugs into statewide politics, right? So how we can really develop this local leadership but really be integrated into statewide decisions, how you can get active in the county, what's the process to join county committee, you know, how petitioning works, how does appointment work, we'll get into all that stuff. And we'll also have a lot of time for question and answers. So people can ask whatever questions come to mind. We'll designate when those times are, when we're gonna allow for questions. So when we're going through the presentation, if you have a question, just write it down or drop it in the chat. And Andrea is monitoring the chat and we'll make sure to get to all those questions. And just really quick, for those who don't know, this is just a quick review of who our current leadership is in the 74th Assembly District Part A. So of course, Assembly Member of the 74th District, Harvey Epstein. We also have City Council Member of District 2, Carlina Rivera. We have our district leader, Auda, who's on the call today. Our second district leader, so there's 2 district leaders for each part. And so we have traditionally what has been a male and female. And so John explained that he recently just stepped out of the role, so there's a vacancy. And then we have our state committee members, Michelle Winfield and Anthony Feliciano. Michelle might make an appearance. She was having some computer issues, but that's our state committee representation here in the 74th. All right, cool. So
yeah.
Go for it.
Am I next? Yeah, so we're talking about like the structure. So there's like the Democratic National Convention, there's state party and county party, and we're recruiting right now for our county party. So I'll talk a little bit later about how the map looks and what area you would represent potentially as a county committee person. Oh, it's right here. So these little maps, it's not exactly how it'll look when we are collecting signatures right now because our lines have changed a little bit. But basically it's about a block or 2 that you would represent and collect signatures from that ED to be elected as a county committee person. And then we'll show you on the petitions where you put your name so that you can get on.
Sorry about that. Awesome. So yeah, so the county committee is a very local kind of leadership that's part of the respective parties. So we're talking about here, the Democratic County Committee. And so once someone is on the county committee, what exactly does the county committee do? So the county committee, in terms of like obligations, if you join county committee, the obligation that you have is a meeting once every 2 years. Which is a really, really low level of commitment. And that's why we really encourage people to join county committee, especially if you're a leader within the community. Everyone on this call is a leader in some way, right? So maybe you're part of your local club, maybe you're a union member, maybe you're a tenant, you know, a tenant member of your tenants association, maybe you're on your PTA, whatever leadership role you play in the community, we really want to have your voice and representation on our local county committee. Once we get our folks on our local county committee, that meeting once every 2 years is to do a few things. So one is to elect the leadership of the county. So when we're speaking about the county, we're speaking about Manhattan County, right? So all the county committee members are part of the Manhattan County Committee, and then more locally, we're part of our Assembly District County Committee, and even more locally than that, we're part of our Division County Committee, right? So Part A is for folks who live in like Alphabet City mostly. That's changing a little bit. You might also be like Cheryl's in the 65th. I'm not sure which part you're in, Cheryl. So those partitions are the hyper local expression of county committee. So we would vote for the county committee, the Manhattan County Committee leadership at that meeting once every 2 years. So those are the different positions. We would approve the rules, the county rules. So this is, a process where there might be amendments that members are making for county committee. There might be new things that people are trying to bring into county committee rules. And so we would be approving and going through that process, deliberation process. Voting on resolutions. So if we want to take any kind of stances as a party and as a local county, we can make those resolutions presented and vote on them. And of course, being approved by a majority of the county committee. Some examples of what's been voted on in the past, just so you kind of get a grasp of what we're talking about. So proposal to receive electronic notice for meetings in addition to mailings at least 5 days prior to county committee meetings. That's something that didn't exist before, right? You had to only do physical mailing, which we still do physical mailing, but now also too, we had, this option to have electronic notice. Also proposal to restrict lobbyists from holding a party position is something that's been voted on in the past. Another thing is a discussion on, for instance, district leaders, the male and female kind of rule that's been instituted. There's been a move to really try to get, room for non-binary folks in that equation. And so that's something that we would vote on as a county. And then a big one that we talk about is filling vacancies. So Jake was kind of alluding to this earlier. So if there's a vacancy in a political seat, in a political office, that needs to be filled, right? We can't wait to the next election. A lot of times we need to make sure that there's representation during that term. So if someone, resigns, if someone runs for another office, if someone moves out of the district, there needs to be a vote to get someone new in the position, but we can't host a general election. That's a big operation. So what do? We have candidates who present themselves to the county committee, and we deliberate and vote who is going to be the Democratic nominee for that race. And of course, in a city like New York, where there's a lot of Democratic Party strongholds, that is very significant, right? Because that candidate is probably going to be the next representative for, whatever that office is. So it's, as county committee members, we're the ones that have say in that process, which is really, really important to remember. And when we get to the question period, we can kind of go through that question. But this is another important point. 1/3 of elected officials come through special elections hosted by county committee. 1/3. That's a pretty significant number of representatives. So at the next county committee, so once you get voted in and you're on county committee, we'll be going through all this stuff, electing county leaders, proposing and deciding on rules and amendments, and then we'll be talking about other citywide issues. We're gonna get into the next section here, but before we get there, we have a special guest who just joined us, and I know they have limited time. Harvey, are you available to jump on the line for a second or two?
I'm here, Shawn.
Harvey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for doing this, and thanks
25 years old? 25 today?
Yeah, with my 23-year-old daughter, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Harvey, can you share a little bit about why you think county committee is so significant?
Yeah, it's great. I'm happy to, and I'm sorry to jump into the middle of this, but I think what Shawn's saying is really critical. Not only are there special elections for district leaders and assembly members, but it's really the eyes and the ears of our community, having people on the block really being the knowledge base for each block and each set of blocks is really critical. And I won a special election through a county committee process. We've had numerous district leaders do that. It is so important that we have people who care about our neighborhood get involved in this. There's county-wide politics. We have an annual meeting with county that can set a more progressive stance for Manhattan County politics, and that will affect, there's a strong ripple effect. So if there's a local issue of like a district leader or an assembly race, there's a county-wide impact. And so there's a lot of ways that people can then step up their responsibility and involvement to being state committee, which could have statewide impact on the Democratic Party. So I really think this is a really important stepping stone for people to be more engaged across our community. And thank you for the happy birthday wishes.
Thanks, Harvey. We'll know how long you'll be able to hang around, but hopefully we'll see you in a little bit when we get to the question period. But we have to jump off, no worries.
Is it my turn next?
Yeah, go for it, Otto.
I also wanted just to highlight that our state senator, Brian Kavanagh, he was elected through a special election. And when these things happen, electeds will call you, right? And they want to know what's the problem, right? Like you can say, my elevator's broken. They need a new gym at like the school and my son's, whatever, like issues that are happening and maybe they're not aware of. And this is the best time to highlight it and say, like, what are you going to do about it? Can you commit to like making some sort of repair or change, right? And making sure that they own up to it, right, when they get elected. So yeah. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like what I was talking about, right? Like we want to organize around the issues in our community and bringing them to the county committee and having other people who are like-minded get involved in similar issues, and making sure that we're on the grounds figuring out what the issues are in our districts, really super hyper locally. I think, yeah, the county committee is a really great place to do something like that. Yeah, like voter registration drives and getting 18-year-olds to register, because we really want to make sure that our youth is getting involved in bringing out the vote and having their voices heard. I think a really important part about being district leader is going to all the poll sites and making sure that people have what they need when it comes time to vote. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Should
So
we talk about petitioning? Oh, that's after. Okay.
yeah, we'll get to that in the next section. So those are kind of like the main functions of county committee, in terms of, the once every 2-year meeting, special elections, but then there's also other things that we can be doing with county committee. So there's nothing stopping us from meeting more is a big one to remember. A lot of times, people join county committee and maybe they have limited time and they only can contribute in certain ways, but people want to contribute more and you want to be part of this broader coalition, right? This is really what we're talking about when we're talking about building community leaders. We're building a coalition of folks, people who are involved in housing, people who are involved in democratic clubs, people who are involved in environmental issues, bringing them all together into this local leadership body. And we can have more than meetings than once every 2 years. We can have hyper local divisional meetings where it's just people in, part A of the 74th or 65th C or whatever. And we can have, meetings where all the parts come together of the county. So all of District 74, or all of District 65, or together. There's nothing really restricting that either. And creating this collaborative spirit in the district. A lot of us are doing amazing and impactful work but we need to connect ourselves to one another. We're doing it in some spaces, but we can do it on a broader level. You know, we live in an underserved community. We don't have tons of money and resources, but what we do have is people power and that energy and that spirit to want to uplift our community. And when we come together and bring all the work that we're doing in our respective areas into one space, like the county committee, then we can really uplift each other and create that collaboration. We can create subcommittees on specific issues, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the ideas that have been bounced around. But if there's something that you're very passionate about, maybe you want to find other folks in the county committee who are passionate about that same issue, and you can build out a subcommittee. Developing local leaders is really important to this process. So this is a very low bar commitment. You know, you're getting into this position of leadership, but maybe you want to, you know, get into a higher level of leadership. Maybe you want to get into some formal public office, become an elected official, become our next assembly person, become our next city council member. It's great to have this space where we can internally, you know, build candidates who are, you know, responsive to all the needs of the community, but also get that training, that leadership training that's needed to represent the community. Not everyone's born with all the skill sets that are needed, but they politically might be the best person that we need. And if we have a great county committee that's functioning with subcommittees, we're meeting often, it's great ways to identify that leadership, and it's great ways to nurture that leadership. And I would add, especially people of color and young people, really cultivating leadership within these sectors, which are really vital, and not getting the kind of nurturing support needed in our current political structure, right? We want to, like what Alda was saying earlier, not only get people registered to vote who are 18 years old, but get them to become political leaders in the community and get their issues uplifted. And this is a great place to do that. So kind of building on that, learning new skills, we can help each other, train each other. If there's something that we want to learn how to do, we want to learn how to create a campaign around an issue. We want to learn how to write a petition. We want to learn how to contribute to legislative kind of conversations. All those are things that we can host trainings on internally as a county committee, and, you know, set up meetings with our local assembly person. Hey, this is some legislation we want you to push. We developed it, you know, locally. It's a hyper local kind of issue for us that we want you to bring to the state level. And that's something that we can develop those kind of meetings and those trainings for. Cool. So let's talk about how you get on county committee. So Alda, you can go back for it.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, I've been petitioning for CODA specifically since I was 18. I registered to vote at one of the meetings, and then they just like sent me out to petition. So basically, you need to make sure that you are a registered Democrat before you go out and collect signatures. And when you are, you need to ask the person if they live in the district. Specifically for county committee, you want to get people from your ED. And I know I talked a little bit about that earlier, but it's basically like a block or two within the district that you would represent in the county committee. And that's like your little voting block. So you want to get the signatures from the people who live on that block so that they can go towards your, I guess, kind of like endorsement, because they all make up the certain amount of, yes, election districts. They kind of make up your county committee. And I know that the numbers have gone down on how many signatures we need. So I can circle back on the exact number unless somebody else knows. But basically, you need a certain amount to get elected to county committee. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the number
works. And at the top, you can put in your information. We can show you the area where you put your name and your address. And the district that you're in.
Yeah, I think that we won't know the numbers exactly for a couple of weeks. We're waiting for direction from, you know, the borough-wide county because, of course, COVID, there's been a little bit of changes in terms of signature requirements. So we'll find out that final number, but it's not much, right? We're talking like a couple dozen
Yeah,
signatures.
it used to be 20, so I think it might be less now. I don't know.
And you want to, the way you think about this too, like your ED for you, if you're running on county committee, is like a 2 to 3 block radius from where you live, right? That's the ED you're running for. So you want
And
to
you
think
also
about
don't
like
need to
your
live on the
neighbors.
block, right? You don't need to live on
Yeah.
the block where you represent the ED. So sometimes you might live a couple blocks away, but you represent a different block.
Yeah, there might be an instance where that, you know, you and one of your neighbors are both trying to get on county committee. So you identify, oh, actually, you know, a couple blocks down, we know there's no one running for county committee. You know, I'll run for that one. It's still part of the same district. I'll run for that one, you run for this one. And we kind of fill out our, you know, we get our slate together of folks that we want to run, and we want to make sure that each ED has representation. Of course, folks who have vested interest in an ED, living there, working there, hanging out there, having relationships there is important, right? But we also don't want to have vacancies in any EDs because that's lost opportunity to fill out the county committee membership. And so yeah, so if you're thinking about signatures, like you're thinking like your neighbors, like walking around in your building, getting, you know, talking to your neighbors, getting them to sign off on getting you on the ballot, you know, talking to the local bodega and seeing if they'll put up a sign for you or something like that to get signatures, like getting creative with it. But it's not a hard thing to do, but it's a good thing to do because that process of getting signatures and engaging with your neighbors, letting them know that you're running for county committee to represent that block and that 2 blocks is really empowering because a lot of us don't realize our political power. We're not taught our political power, right? Disenfranchisement and, you know, the way that the political structures work does not really empower us to understand that process. So part of this work of getting on a petition, getting on the slate is political education for you and your neighbors so we can understand our political power and how we can get involved in issues locally and also even impact things on a statewide or even national level. So before we get to a question and answer period, some of the committees that have been spoken about in the past that we've been thinking about with the 74th is a subcommittee on voter registration and engagement. So kind of getting out the vote, like Auda was speaking to. A committee that's specifically focused on candidate petitioning. So not only for folks for county committee, but local leaders who we as county committee members believe in and stand behind. We want to get the petitioning done for them, right? So like if Harvey's running for re-election this year, Harvey's hoping that he can win the support of the county committee members to also in the process for petitioning for themselves and their peers are also petitioning for him and, you know, ensuring his re-election and all that kind of stuff, campaigning. Community cleanups we've talked a lot about. It's a great way to do outreach and provide service to the community is through community cleanups. Great way to, you know, meet our neighbors, all that kind of stuff. Housing rights subcommittee, the Lower East Side, Alphabet City, East Village, one of the biggest political struggles that we have and had historically is around housing rights. We're going through a state of hyper gentrification and displacement. And so this is a committee that we really think is important. And then recruitment, a recruitment committee. So not just like recruiting people to county committee, but trying to get them engaged in the different struggles that we're working on, the campaigns that we're working on, the coalition partners campaigns that we're supporting, and just trying to engage people in that process. So those are some of the subcommittees, but we also want to hear what folks' ideas are for other committees. So that's kind of the end of the presentation. For cool picture of some of the CODA board members. But we want to open up the floor for people's questions and comments on, you know, what do you think about county committee? How can it be better? You you know, anything. Go ahead, Rachel. You're muted at the moment. Rachel, you still muted.
Hi, I'm not in Harvey's district. I'm little gerrymandered a few blocks away. But in any case, I'm in Yulin's district, and I was curious as to how that works in terms of the county committee.
Right, so we haven't gotten guidance on what it will look like with the new redistricting and how that's going to be handled. So we'll have more answers on that at a later training. But whether you're in the 74th, the 65th, the 66th, we want to make sure that everyone's running for county in their respective district. But we'll have more details on what that looks like, you know, in a couple of weeks. John, did you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say that, I mean, everything you said is accurate, right? We're waiting for answers. But Rachel, that's a really important question because, I mean, you know, for the Auda and I were elected in 2019. And when we ran for district leader, you know, we built all these relationships and county committee members built all these relationships. For example, and for those of you who don't know, the new redistricting maps have cut out 3 of our NYCHA developments, including Lillian-Walled houses, Bersetti Plaza, Gompers. So part of that area of our district has been cut out and will now become the 65th Assembly District in January of 2023. So we're waiting to see how that impacts the district leader lines. And I know that that's something that Auda is actively working on, and Manhattan County and the leadership of Manhattan County, which Keith Wright is the county leader. They are, you know, a lot of district leaders, I think, are coming to them and saying, we're concerned, right? You cut out part of our district now, or the state legislature cut out part of our district now, and that was voted on. How does this impact our district leader lines? And a lot of folks are trying to maintain those relationships and those EDs, but we don't know what's going to happen yet. We're waiting to hear back from the county leadership.
Thanks, John. I got Cheryl raised, and then I got Taekwon after that. There you go.
Yes, what I want to say is, you know, it would be a pleasure to see all the EDs and ADs, especially down on the Lower East Side, come together, you know, and put our heads together. So when we have the big county committee meeting and whatnot, we could bring all our issues to Keith Wright and whatnot. The last big meeting I went to, it was a disgrace, okay?
Yeah.
It was a disgrace. So I would love to see all the EDs down here in Lower Manhattan. Really, we get together and bond so we could be a force to be reckoned with at the next big county committee. Thank you.
That's exactly right, Shawn. That's why it's so important for us to join right now this process, but also identify the friends and neighbors that we have who we think can be important to be on county committee, and really try to encourage them to join as well, so that we can have that collaboration. And like you're saying, Cheryl, you know, have a really united Lower East Side, regardless of what district you are, you know, identifying our issues, uplifting our issues at the Manhattan County so that we don't get ignored. And then Taekwon.
Yeah, so I have like a 2-part question, but they're related, you know, so it's fine. So as far as this district, right? I understood what y'all was breaking down as far as, like, you know, what our district is made up of, and there is 4 parts to the district, right? I remember from the graphics, part A, B, C, and D. So I know that y'all said that they are like currently making some changes and adjustment, but can y'all just give me an idea of, like, specifically, like, which blocks will be considered part A and part B, like more specifically? And also, John said that they removed certain NYCHA developments like Bersetti and Lillian-Walled from the district, but is it just the development or is it the whole block? because like even like Rossetti Plaza, there's other buildings on that whole block. So is it just the redistribution of the development, or is it the whole block?
Look
or
at
surrounding
Jake.
block?
Everyone look at Jake. That is what happened.
Look
That
at
is
it.
the part that was moved out. So if you look at like all the way down to your right, that's Lillian Wall, that square right there. And then that's Avenue D. And you move your way up to Avenue C. It goes all the way to 4th
Okay.
Street.
Yeah.
So those lines, if you look at Jake's profile, that area from Avenue FDR Drive all the way to Avenue A was the area that was kind of like cut out. It's interesting because Baruch stays in the 74th, but not Lillian Wald. So
Can Jake share screen or get on the screen? Because it's like,
Can you all spotlight Jake?
okay,
You can spotlight him too.
spot.
If I'm talking, maybe you can see it. Yeah, it's everything that's above that line. Everything that's above that line is the 74th Part A, probably.
mhm.
John will know better, but everything above that purple line,
Which one?
everything above here is going to be 74 Part A, probably up to 14.
Where it says Alphabet City, that's the 74th. And then
And then below that,
below is 65th.
which is what I think Cheryl and was mentioning earlier. I think she's already in the.
She was
60th.
already in the 65th before
Right.
this.
So
Yeah.
we don't, and unfortunately below the that line, it's unclear where the parts, what the different parts are of that whole area, right? Because right now there are multiple district leaders in that area.
Yeah.
Right. The thing to remember, so, for the sake of this session, because we'll have a whole conversation on redistricting and what it means for us. But for the sake of this conversation, the way that the county committee is structured is it's by the assembly district, right? You can live anywhere in that assembly district and run for a county committee in that assembly district. Then it's broken into divisions, part A, B, C, and D in the 74th and in the 65th. Some assembly districts don't only have 3 parts. Some, I think, only have 2 in different parts of the city. But it's about being part of that assembly district to run for that county committee of that district. So I think going back to Cheryl's point, yes, we should identify which county committee we're going to run for, and that's important to figure out before the end of the month. But we are one community, right? This is the Lower East Side. It's not 74th versus the 65th. We're one community. So let's figure out, even beyond getting on the county committee, how we make sure that we're collaborating and coming together, regardless of what lines are drawn by, censuses and things like that. You said you had a 2-part question, Taekwon. Was there a second one, or was that answered in that conversation?
Well, yeah, the second one was, dang, now I forgot the second one. But both, they were answered though. Both of them were answered. I got it.
Awesome. And I saw Jasmine Sanchez, who's on county committee as well, raise her hand. She put it down, but I don't know if she wanted to share anything. Jasmine?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I had a question, but it was about the district leaders and the parts, but I know that then we just said we weren't going to talk about that because it's going to be a larger conversation. So I can send a message to anyone and just get some clarity on that. So that'll take up time.
Yeah, and I again, the same kind of guidance that we're waiting on, how the EDs are going to be handled is also that conversation about district leadership. So Auda's in conversation with the Manhattan County to really sort that stuff out so we can get some answers. I'm sure there's confusion citywide. We actually don't have as confusing of conversation as some others who whole boroughs are changed and stuff like that, Any other questions or comments? Taekwon, go for it.
I remember the second part. So the second part was the 19 developments that y'all said they're redistricting. That includes the whole block that the development is on, right? So
Correct.
like the City Plaza, that would include okay, that's all right.
I'm actually going to put something in the chat and you can look at the new district lines and how they've changed. So it might make it a little bit more helpful. Although I really like looking at Jake's background. It was perfect.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Anyone else who's been on county who wants to share their experience, good and bad? I think it helps inform, you know, people's thought process on this. Cheryl, you go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, I'm in 64 Part B. I really don't know who's on county committee in A, which I would love to know, meet that person. So we could, you know, get together for the whole 65th, not just part, for the whole 65th, and work on our issues in the 65th, because the 65th really do have some serious issues that we need to work on as being people, members of the county committee. Okay.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Jasmine, did you raise your hand newly for this?
Yeah, I wanted to like share the experience of like running
Awesome.
for county committee. I think that it was a really great process because, you know, you have like the 3 buildings within your election district, and there's a lot of folks that are there. So having those real relational, transparent conversations is important, but then people know who to turn to immediately if there's something that's wrong or like something that's happening, and then they can those county committee members can reiterate that message to leadership, like the district leaders or the elected officials. So I think that that's also important. People know that there are folks that are on the ground. It's kind of like these are the grounds folks. I love that. And I think it's really great. Plus, it empowers people who thought that they could never, you know, do anything like this because of whatever barriers. And we all know that people in our communities are leaders, like they do this stuff like in their PTAs or like they're doing things, you know, in communities. So I think it's just giving them this opportunity to really start thinking about what they will want to see done or any ideas that they have. And I think that that was like the best thing to come out of like the 2019 county committee slate was that there was a lot of folks with different opinions and issues that they wanted to bring forth, and they were able to collectively organize around that and launch these mini campaigns in regards to the issues in their communities.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also too, like a great reminder that we're not all gonna agree on every issue, but that's the point of having this collaboration, is like coming together in a broader coalition to have these conversations so that we can really think through what's best for the community. John, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to lift up what Jasmine said, because like there's a few folks on here who are examples, right? Jasmine is an example. Marquise Jenkins, who's on, is an example. Cheryl Freeman is an example. There's a couple of county members, active county members here, who did a really great job at recruiting members of county committee and like getting them involved in the process. And I think me, during my time as a district leader, I was really able to build with folks that I haven't met before, or build with folks who we were in buildings, maybe 5 buildings apart. But as they became a member of county committee and I was a district leader, I was really able to like connect about some of the issues that they're seeing locally, whether it was in their building or on their block. I think that's a really important piece, right? This can be very political. The county committee process can be very political to the point where what Cheryl said, that last meeting before the pandemic in person, it was a hot mess. We had to go uptown to like 145th Street and Riverside Drive. All the county committees of all of Manhattan came together. People were yelling at each other. Somebody ran up on the speaker area, and new county committee members who were just elected in 2019. I remember them looking at me and being like, "John, what did I get into?" And I was like, I feel bad, right? Like I feel bad that we're witnessing this. My first year as a district leader, your first year as a county committee member. But like, listen, if anybody thought that the politics in the Lower East Side were rough, you should look at some of the politics uptown in Harlem, in Washington Heights. Now that's rough. And I mean rough in the sense of the political aspect. Like at that meeting, people were like ready to attack each other. And I was like, this is not okay. And this is not the type of example that we want to give for our like democracy, right? So I think, you know, Shawn emphasized this before about what it means for our part and our neighboring part to the 65th and our neighboring part of the 66th and so on, and how we should be a united LES, and we should set a really great example for some of our other neighbors uptown, midtown, to the west, etc. And, you know, I think that that's a really good point, but it ultimately, besides the political, it really helps you connect with your neighbors in a way that, you know, you could be doing it through a school community, through a garden, through NYCHA, through whatever, you're standing at the bus stop, but it's really a great way to connect with your neighbors in the area.
Thanks so much, John. And we're closing
Thank
out
you,
here.
John.
We're closing out here in the hour, so I want to wrap up. I just want to give reminders of some timetables, which are really important if you're considering joining county committee or if you want to recruit for county committee. So the petitioning process to get on the ballot to run for the position is starting in March. And so we're really trying to identify and recruit and strategize that recruitment process over the next couple of weeks in February to make sure that we're getting EDs all represented, making sure that we're reaching out to local leaders who we want to make sure are on the county committee and they're represented and their struggles are represented. That's going to happen over the course of February. We're going to do a training at the end of February to talk about petitioning and how you do it and best practices and all that kind of stuff. We'll do our petitioning. And again, the petitioning will be everyone who is identified on the slate that we want to run, in addition to the other candidates for larger offices that we're trying to petition for. That all is going to happen at the same time. So it's a really fun process. And then after elections, if you're uncontested for your ED, you won't show up on the at the elections on the ballot. If there is a contention, then there will be your names on the ballot. It's not as common, but it does happen. But after all the elections and after all of it is settled, there will potentially be some EDs that are still not fulfilled. And at that time too, we can continue recruitment and identify who are some people that couldn't run in this cycle for whatever reason. They didn't know about it, they found out too late, they didn't have the capacity, whatever. We can also try to identify, recruit, and appoint. So district leaders have the ability to appoint people onto the county committee and really make sure that it's an ongoing process and that we never really have vacancies and that we're continuing to build this broad coalition that's really representative of our interests and needs here in the Lower East Side as we go forward. So if there's any, I see there's a couple other questions. Paul is asking about some of the redistricting stuff. Paul, we said earlier that we're going to get more information from Manhattan County outas and conversations so we can figure out what the process is going to look like, you know, with the redistricting and also COVID considerations. So we'll have more answers in a couple of weeks.
Just Deborah's question around, is county committee members lifetime, or do you have to run each time? It's you have to run for a re-election each time, every 2 years.
So basically that's kind of like what we're doing now. I have a list of who was on the count last time, and then we call everybody and ask them, do you still want to be on the county committee? And some people can and some people can't. I mean, it's all about your what you can give, right? It's your time. So some people stay on county for several years and some people just choose not to. But I mean, I think a lot of the people usually choose to stay on. I would say like 60-70% will just continue on, but it's every 2 years.
And I did just want to make a note, and we said this early on, but you know, this county committee, like the re-election, was supposed to happen in 2021. So that 2021 was the second year, but because of COVID, the state legislature voted to move the 2021 election to 2022 because of COVID safety and concerns. They went forward with the district leader re-election. So Auda and I were re-elected last year, but county committee was moved to this year. And I also say that because we're not sure then how that impacts the rest of the coming years. Like are they going to go back? Usually district leaders and county committee members, they run together. So the next district leader re-election is June of 2023. So we're not sure if the state legislature is going to come in and say, well, county committee, to get them back on track with district leaders, maybe we should have them run for re-election next year, or if they're just going to keep them in opposite years. Those are all questions that we're still waiting to be answered.
Thanks, Shawn. And yeah, and so we'll put out a date for that next training for those who are interested in joining county or petitioning to support others joining on county committee. We'll be doing that training in a couple weeks. So if you're not already, please make sure that you follow CODA and sign up for our newsletter. You go to our website, which is codales.org, CODALES.org, and you can sign up for our newsletter there. Also, if you're not a CODA member already, and remember, CODA represents the 74th, Part A, and also parts of the 65th. So we welcome everyone to join in on our CODA meetings. Our next CODA meeting is going to be happening next Thursday, February 10th, at 6 p.m. actually. It's usually 7 p.m. This month it'll be at 6 p.m. because we're going to be doing some more interviews for candidates for elected office, and we're going to be doing some endorsement conversations and votes for full members. You can vote, but everyone's welcome to join. So check us out. Also, if you are interested in joining county committee and you don't already have one of our direct contacts, I'm putting my email in the chat. Feel free to email me, express that you're either interested in joining county committee or maybe you have more questions. Maybe you're not super sure yet if you want to do it. Maybe you're watching this recording and you're like, oh, John scared me. Then you can hit me up and we can troubleshoot and we can answer any questions after this. And hopefully in the coming months and years, we'll be doing a lot of work together as a group.
I hope that none of the CODA members here hate me for saying this, but sorry, I see you, Josh, I'm sorry. But I did want to say, because I think it's important to say too, that, you know, members of CODA are putting this County 101 training on, but you do not need to be associated with a political organization in order to run for county committee. You do not need to be a member of CODA in order to run for county committee. Of course, we want you to join CODA and we want to build our political organization here in the Lower East Side and make those connections that maybe we did not have before, so that we can share what we learned throughout the years of doing this, and so y'all can teach us what we have yet to know or learn. But you do not, it's not a requirement for you to be in a political organization in order for you to run for county, but we do want you to join our membership.
That's a great point, John. Alda, you have any parting words before we finish for the day?
No, yeah, I also put my email in the chat. I added Glenn to our list, and I think Martha is also interested. So we got 2 recruits today. So that's really exciting. But yeah, we'll keep on. We're going to start making calls now to everybody. So we wanted to do this training first, and then we'll start calling everybody on the county committee to make sure that they want to stay on. And we'll likely ask those people if they have any friends or neighbors or community leaders that they know that would be interested in joining us.
Deborah Gonzalez.
Okay.
Quick question though. Did I read that right in the chat? The lines have been, the new redistricting lines have been signed into law by the governor?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's official. Thank you.
And
So
I sent you,
we'll have
there's a little
redistricting
link in here if you want to
conversation
see
soon.
it.
We do anticipate a lawsuit. I just want to say, I think there are 14 plaintiffs who've already come forward to sue the governor. So we'll see what happens.
Wow.
John be having the tea
So,
always.
It's going to be messy, guys. Get ready.
I'll get ready.
Well, it was on Twitter, so I don't got the tea. Twitter has the tea. If you want the political tea, just make an account on Twitter and you'll be good to go.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much
John
for
is
everybody
definitely always
joining
on Twitter.
us.
Yes.
And we'll have this recording up in a couple hours or tomorrow morning. And again, we'll share it on our social medias. We'll share it an email to everyone who registered for this, and please reshare it to your friends and get them in contact with Ada and I so that we can start this process of recruitment. Thank you so much, y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Have a blessed weekend, everyone.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.